They're like water from them charged them 200 and something. For what? Just the cable. Like, yeah,
Just getting a cable, bro.
Bruh. Oh. Ooh, otherwise, how are you, man?
Yeah, I'm good in yourself, bro.
That's it.
Yeah, just whatever you've done with this.
Yeah, yeah, I'm enjoying this, but just everything with me, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, I don't know. Should we just get to it? Let's get to it. Let's run it. All right. Yeah. So the last time we met, can't say last week. It's been a few weeks since we posted.
Yeah.
We left you guys on a cliffhanger. We left you guys with a few questions, which we hope you answered within the comments. Just to recap, we talked about township billboards, the function, how they function as psychological traps, perpetuating alcohol, payday loans, processed foods, and basically the visual equivalent of slow poison. But today we have something interesting. Today we are crossing this invisible line because we are under the assumption that what's happening in Sanson isn't just advertising, it's visual warfare dressed in a bit of a money. What do you think?
Yeah, I also think the same way, and to best look at it, we consider scholars such as Goldstein and Kieser, which actually give us a language for this. So basically, their work shows that whiteness isn't just passively dominant.
Okay.
In spaces, it's just a universal standard of success. So basically, what is portrayed there in Sanson as maybe success, it's a success in terms of universal standards. So now we have writers such as Mavuso who tell us that billboards are aesthetically occupying forces. So basically they use these things to maintain colonial visual regimes, which can be termed as respectability extraction economies. So then when we're looking at this, we have to consider theories that we've actually discussed in our previous podcast, such as theories of power to and power over.
Yeah, it's interesting because to further the Mavuso, just to stick with Mavuso there for a bit, because he traces the direct lines between our grandparents' physical resistance and today's need for visual insurrection, essentially. So we have to kind of claim our space vision. And so we did the physical wanting to occupy spaces, but then we haven't really looked at the visual aspects of how then we control the narrative in terms of our spaces. So in Architects of Umzabalazo, Nkosi Mavuso documents how during apartheid activists didn't just protest, but they hijacked the visual tools of oppression. So they strategically would put notices and kind of market the uprising in a way that would fit them, and we haven't resorted back to that post-apartheid. We seem to have just said, okay, everything's equal, and we just take what we're seeing as billboard as it's for everyone. But is it truly for everyone?
Not really, because everyone, I believe, has the right to the city, and that's what David Harvey in his book actually published, Right to the City. So basically, David Harvey actually argues in this publication that urban spaces should be co-created. Now here's the word co-created, meaning it's a dual partnership. I'm not just doing it on my own. The people that actually gonna occupy the space should actually participate in the creation of that space, not just our commercial or corporate interests. So basically, this also ties in with what you mentioned about visual Umzabalazo by Mavuso, which is basically not asking for basically representation within broken systems, but seizing the means of representation themselves.
That's true. Because there's a quote that David Harvey uses. I'm forgetting the person that he's quoting from, but he says, man's most successful and on the whole, well, the city is man's most successful and on the whole, his best efforts of making the world in which he lives. Right? But then subsequently, if the city is the world in which man is condemned to live, by remaking the city, man ultimately has to remake himself. So then by being robbed of the tools of deciding what's being fed and how your space is being represented, you have no aspects of growing under or out of a certain paradigm. So it's interesting that you included Harvey, because the notions around who has the rights in the city is something that we'd really like you guys to actually think about and actually understand as a narrative beyond billboards. But the billboards are just one drop in the ocean of a larger plague of this challenge that we are trying to unpack. So just to continue, the right to the city is in action. Last month, the Katleong, well, it's not last month anymore because we haven't shot this in a while. Katleong Art Collective did a petition the council about predatory loan ad at near school. They subsequently replaced the ad with the portraits of Mamun Dlovu, the Gogo who was running the community kitchen for 15 years. And the caption was the real bank of Katleong. Do you understand? Like
That throws power over basically.
so they're claiming, they're understanding so there are small movements of people who are understanding the impacts of this visual representation. So for them to be like, no, why do we want quick loans? This is the bank. This lady here who runs this kitchen. We donate, we assist her, she helps Mungenama. She is the bank. So why are we then getting it's very interesting, man.
So basically this is actually as I was mentioning that it's Njo's power over theory, but the inverse of it. So basically this is when we look at this, we see how communities are practicing what Mavuso calls guerrilla visual planning. So basically it's not waiting for policy changes, but rewriting the visual landscape through direct action. There's the word direct action. Just taking action.
So don't meanders, just kondakon.
Yeah.
Okay. I hear that the promises of integrated cities, because now we are showing, or we've been highlighting how we have this thing of integration within planet, where we want our cities to seem seamless. But then the visuals aren't. So then what are we integrating? Because already transport is not integrated. People don't want to be integrated. So what is then this notion of integrated cities? So when Mavuso researched it, he showed that how neoliberal planning became what he terms trickled down aesthetics. World-class enclaves surrounded by visual sacrifice zones. Do you understand? So it's zones where they don't really they're not playing on the identity of the space, but rather trying to extract as much as they can. They're creating what Marc Auger calls non-places. So it's just a place where it's based off of its function. But what they did in Katleong, they were showing that these billboards could be also a tool to represent the space itself. So if you're an outsider coming into Katleong, you really want to know who is Mamuntlov. Instead of wondering why there's so many cash zones within the space. What is happening with these people? So it's interesting.
So basically, as we touched on Michael Foucault in our previous episode, hope you watched it and you commented on those questions that we actually asked you. So basically, his panopticon theory, that word is really a tongue twister. So basically, So basically, in our context, these billboards don't sell products; they sell our aspirations. So basically, but then what you find is that Mavuso pushes further that we're now facing what is actually called algorithmic. Why am I getting the hard words, the tongue twisters? Like, why? Why am I trying to tongue twist myself?
English.
Yes. With not my native language, but algorithmic visual regimes where colonial aesthetics with digital marks.
So that's why David Harvey's concept of symbolic annihilation needs to be updated currently. So when certain billboards excludes blackness, unless it's wearing a white suit, and a township ad bombards us with predatory messaging, Mavuso calls this aesthetic necklacing. So if you go back to apartheid, necklacing, you remember what necklacing was? Like Mukcholi Pimpi, say she's once. So that's essentially what they're doing. They're strangling in townships and then liberating in suburbs. But in order for you to feel free within that sense and space, they've given you the blueprint on a billboard of this is how black man acts here. You understand? This is the ideal blackness that is accepted. And in the township, it's just be black.
Yeah, just be yourself.
Yeah, yourself is this. Not even just be yourself. This is who you are.
Basically, you must conform to this is who you are.
Exactly. You eat KFC, don't have money, you need a quick loan.
KFC
Shape like label. That's you.
And one KFC.
You understand?
You see paydays. And then now, what we actually look at is
money is calling. The money is calling.
I'm recording a podcast, serious things, yeah. So basically, now this is where we turn despair into strategy. So basically, Mavuso, this Mavuso is actually a genius. So now they document that dozens of resistance case. He documents dozens of resistance case studies. So basically, the students who hacked Science digital billboards to display land restitution messages. That's one case study. The taxi drivers who collectively reroute to avoid oppressive ads. That's the second case study. Even something as simple as parents teaching their kids to spit at certain signs. So, and that's what Mavuso terms as embodied counter semiotics.
And I mean, you're cooking with these words, bro.
Hey,
you're cooking. You are cooking. That's it's Friday, man.
Yeah.
It's long weekend, so I hope you guys take this time to, once going through this podcast, actually do some of the things that we outline, because we also doing them ourselves and trying to find out more. Because this has totally brought us full circle to Harvey's radical proposition, where true urban justice isn't about access to spaces built for oppression, but it's rather, again, what Mavuso would say, a daily insurrection of seeing differently. And for you to see differently, you have to actually be active within the space to allow you to kind of change the space in order for you to change your perspective of the space. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay.
You understand? So here's a challenge for you listeners. Do you want to give them a challenge?
Yeah. So here's the challenge, guys. We want you to become visual insurgents. This the coming week, after the long weekend, man. Yeah, bro. After the long weekend, or maybe you can do it on Monday. Maybe you can do it on Monday. So when you see, yeah, but they'll be free, meaning they'll do it.
But all they've seen is billboards of a black label. Will they be free?
They can do it though in the cars, and they can spit on those billboards.
Okay.
So basically, you can document what an offensive ad that you see there in maybe the township. You really think this ad is really ruffling you, and you can photograph it and actually say how it is ruffling your feathers and how it actually is violent towards you. You can disrupt it actually. You can do graffiti on top of it. You can, well, wait, is that allowed? Is it allowed to actually do graffiti on billboards? Because we don't want people arrested here.
Well, we can't tell them to do it. I don't think that's allowed.
Yeah, so basically disrupting. I don't know how the community does their own thing. Will always have it. Maybe it's going to be their form of mob justice.
We can't suggest it, but we're giving them various options that have been done throughout the world. Not that we're saying,
I don't do it, guys, because we'll be
these are the
arrested.
options.
Now I'm thinking about it. I'm sounding like a terrorist now.
But it's beautiful because think about the weekend that we're in. We are heading into June 16. June 16 is all about mobilizing around something that we believe in. And if you truly believe that your space isn't or is being oppressed by the visuals and you're not happy, then by all means, you'll probably add a list in the description of suggested means that we're not suggesting, but the internet is suggesting, so it's not on us. But anyway, Mavuso writes about the decolonial city, and he says that the city will never be gifted to you guys on a silver platter.
Yeah, for sure.
So it has to be seized. And one way, and the most important way, is the visual territory.
Yeah, for sure.
And that starts by asking a fundamental question of who benefits from this current version of the city? Who benefits the most from what we are seeing on billboards, what we are seeing these differences that we outlined in the first episode between what is marketed in townships versus what is marketed in Sandton. These LSMs that as they call them in marketing. And then the second question would then be, who would benefit the most if this would be rewritten? If we could recode this current paradigm that is governing our spaces, who would then benefit? And if you feel like it's yourself, then
comment.
It's June 16.
Comment.
You know what you must do, ne?
You can comment. Anyways, I think we should wrap it up, man.
Yeah, I think we've given them too much. I think we've given them too much. Hey, man, but I don't believe that you suggested they do graphics.
It's been done before, but then I'm thinking about the law here in South Africa. Because
at least I didn't say it, man. You did. Hey.
Guys, just wear your uniform and march, guys.
Yeah, it's all bad. It's all bad. But yeah, enjoy your week. Enjoy your long weekend. Hopefully you want to watch this today. If you don't, the long weekend is past, and I'm guessing if you're seeing it after the long weekend, you had a safe one. And yeah, you get a chance to think about it after June 16. So yeah, June 16 isn't just a public holiday to drink. We've used this episode strategically by posting it today to kind of bring that spark about, and do you understand? So have fun, enjoy, and thank you for joining. Danko!
Until then, the city and the skyline is for those who are brave enough to reclaim it.
Deep things.
Deep things.